Hey listeners, we all know how important it is to get dedicated face time with retail buyers. And now when you upgrade to a RangeMeet Pro subscription, you get 3 in-person buyer meetings at an ECRM session. That's right, 3 20-minute private meetings with buyers in your category. Tell them your story, sample your products, and have a distraction-free conversation. And a pro tip, our Startup CPG community discount is the best deal around on RangeMeet. You can get RangeMeet Pro with the 3 meetings for $11.99. That's more than half off the regular annual rate. RangeMeet Pro subscribers also get unlimited product listings, a dedicated customer success manager, VIP access to limited time campaigns, exclusive ongoing submission opportunities, and insights into which retailers are checking out your brand and products. To learn more, visit rangeme.com/startupcpg.
For me, the biggest kind of like deal is having a community to like bounce ideas from or building connections with different people. So being able to work at Chosen also kind of like I made a name for myself too, where people want to support me, you know, so having friends is always good. And one of the things that I mentioned too is like it's very hard for me to not have community. Like I know that there's like great companies that are like just come work out of our headquarters, you know, and leaning really on the community to thrive because we're all in this together and we're all going through similar struggles and, you know, like all this kind of like list of things that we need to be taking care of.
Hello, Startup CPG listeners. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Grace, and I am here with another founder feature. Today, I am talking to Maria Covarrubias, the founder of Cien Chiles. Cien Chiles is a flavor-first condiment line with a focus on bringing authentic Mexican condiments to the table. I first met Maria at Expo West this year, and for anyone who has talked to Maria for more than 30 seconds, you know what a joy she is to speak to. So I had so much fun interviewing her for this episode, and she has so much insight and learning to offer to our listeners. So I hope you enjoy listening, and as always, let me know what you think. Hello, everyone. Today I am here with Maria, the founder of Cien Chiles. I'm so excited for you all to learn more about her brand, which is an authentic Mexican condiment brand. But Maria, I will let you introduce yourself and Cien Chiles to our listeners.
Awesome. Hola, familia. Like I always greet the community. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be able to share my story with everyone. And I hope there's little pieces of inspiration and it's definitely a journey. So my name is Maria Covarrubias. And Cien Chiles, or the idea of Cien Chiles, started when I moved to this country. I grew up in Guadalajara in Mexico, and having fresh salsa available in my household was always a thing. So when I moved here, I was 25 years old. I came to become a chef at the Culinary Institute of America up in Napa Valley. And I didn't have a chance to make my own salsa because, of course, I was going to school and working in kitchens. So I was like, oh my gosh, how I wish I could just grab a bottle at the store that tasted like homemade salsa. And of course, nothing was really available except like Valentina, which is like more vinegary. So that's when like the thought started. But yeah, we'll dive into it in a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. And I definitely want to hear a little bit more about your culinary background. So you sort of had this thought of, I miss these salsas that I ate at home, and I wish I could have them here that were easy, that were available and fresh. What then inspired you to actually take the leap to say, I'm really going to do this now?
So my culinary journey brought me, I lived in Napa for a few years, and I moved to New York and worked over there as well. And the restaurant industry, as many of you know or may not know, it's very intense. It's very adrenaline driven, and hours are just crazy. So when I finally decided to move to San Diego, I really wanted to get into a professional corporate job where I would work from 9 to 5 and working or like getting myself into a corporate job. I went into innovation. So I honestly gathered a lot of experience creating different products, like dressings and cooking sauces and fresh guacamole, with a fellow company here in San Diego. And then the pandemic hit. So I was really like gaining amazing momentum, creating, like SKUs for them. And I always had like my salsas in the back of my brain. And the pandemic hit and my husband lost his business. And it was that type of thing where I really felt called to, like not think outside the box, but really like support my family in a different way. And that's when I decided to launch Cien Chiles with the help of my husband, and he's the organized brain and I'm the creative brain. So we make a very good match. And yeah, it was then. So we launched Cien Chiles August 2020. And that was kind of like the push. I kept my corporate job, and this is something that it's pretty relatable to a lot of us founders in the CPG industry, where you don't have the means to just be an entrepreneur. It takes a village. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of your time. So it was long nights. It was busy weekends, manufacturing, locally. And we first started doing just local, like we said, like, okay, let's do just e-commerce because it was the pandemic, right? So everybody was mostly at home. So that was kind of like the big silver lining for us to leverage on the world situation. So yeah, the pandemic was like the little push to be like, okay, I'm doing it. So
I'm doing this now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that is a very common thing that happened to a lot of people, is people lost their jobs, or just they had more time on their hands, even if they just still had a job because they were working from home. And so they were like, this is the inspiration now to finally take a leap on this, idea I've had for a long time. But I also love that you were saying, the restaurant world is so fast paced and stressful. And I was like, and then you entered the startup world, and that is also
exactly. From going to 16-hour days, now it's like almost 24/7 that you have to be on it all the time. And it's hard, with my husband and I being involved in this. And I know a few companies also that are in the same situation with kids, or we have a 5.5-year-old. So it's hard, when we need to like take ourselves out of the business mode and be just a normal family talking about barbecues and the pool, So
yeah,
it is tough. It is tough some days to take ourselves out mentally and all that, but it's wonderful. We definitely do have a great team.
Yeah. And so speaking of the team and the village that it takes to, create a brand these days, and any day, I suppose. But when you guys decided to jump in to create this brand, it sounds like from, March 2020, right, to August 2020, when you launched, this is a pretty short amount of time. And so what sort of resources and connections did you leverage to, actually develop Cien Chiles in those, 6 months?
So I had like been talking to a friend of mine who is a brand creator, and she's like great strategist, Asha. And she and I kind of like had a little session to talk about my idea and the concept. And it was like, but maybe for later, like it wasn't anything. So it was from a casual conversation. We literally like hit the pedal to the metal when I decided to launch. And it was like from March when the pandemic started, it was like, yeah, it was like let's explode it and hopefully launch it in August. Mm-hmm. So, it was just great to watch. So I'm very proud of my Mexican heritage. So I wanted that to be showcased in the packaging too. So that's the kind of like the money, or the largest chunk of money was spent in developing the brand, spending time with the designers, and having like creating the basis for what we had the vision for. So that is definitely something I highly recommend when you are thinking of starting a business, having like spending the time to really like solidify what your vision is for your brand, and where do you see yourself going, and where do you want your product to be, creating a brand with value. And kind of like, for me, it's like that you can tell, I hope you can relate to the passion I have for bringing people together through my brand. So I highly recommend, to spend the time, to spend the dollars, because it's not cheap. Obviously, it did take up, it was kind of like the biggest capital we spent in the beginning was to build a brand, to have the website be, visually enticing, and photography. So all these things that went through, or like for a very short period of time we created, it was kind of magical.
Yeah. And how long, or are you still working your other job, or how long did you keep that job before you decided to go all in on Cien Chiles?
So I kept my corporate job until last year. So I quit, or I left my other job April of last year. So a little bit over a year ago, I finally knew it was time for me to step away and dedicate myself. Of course, I don't think we ever feel entirely ready to make this jump, or like financially ready to do it. But it's the type of thing where if you're not spending enough time, then how is it going to grow? So it was like a big, weighing of all of our kind of like our thoughts and our capabilities to be like, okay, I either spend more time in the business and growing it, and then we won't have not the money and the capital that we're getting from my corporate job. So it was tough balance, but of course, I really truly believe Cien Chiles has everything to grow and become even just as big, or maybe not as big, but as my other corporate job. So so it was that type of thing where I chose to go after or chase after my dreams and dedicate more time and get in front of people. Like for the longest time, we weren't able to do demos locally, because it was tough. Like I could do maybe on the weekends, but then it would take away time from my family. So it was an interesting period of time where we finally where I was able finally to travel, do demos, and be in front of people. So no,
and I think that's a sort of crossroads a lot of founders find themselves in. So many people start out sort of keeping their corporate job or their more traditional job as they're building a brand on the side. And then you reach a point where you do have to decide, am I going to risk it and go all in, or am I going to kind of stay in this zone of safety? And so since you did leave your full-time job, and now your full-time job is Cien Chiles, have you seen your, commitment to the brand sort of pay off in different ways?
Oh my gosh, in so many ways. It is, I feel like, well, since last year, it was a few months of kind of switching gears and kind of getting used to this world, which can be a little bit lonely and different. And so even emotionally, right, it literally plays a trick on you to be super excited, but then you're like, oh man, I don't have an office to go to and talk with people about their coffee and, that community that I'm a social butterfly. So for me, it was like a big shock on leaving. But I really feel that from April to December, it was like a lot of like gear switching and defining swimming lanes. And like my husband is an amazing like brain to have everything like super organized and like, like having all the information kind of like set up for me to like jump in and be like, okay, I'll take it from here, like all these things. And then the beginning of this year, like 2024 has been just like a wave of like, literally, I feel like we've been surfing all year on the momentum. And we were the like finalists for Pitch Slam. We were in the top 5 of the Pitch Slam for Expo West. And then being able to experience Expo West without working it, because I worked it with my previous company for 8 years, So
Wow.
it was kind of wild, to kind of like be on the flip side now of being a very like a backpack brand, as you call it, being a backpack brand and walking around and meeting people. And that has been, or it's just been this whole year riding the wave and that momentum of growth and investing the time and kind of like watching the fruits grow.
We'll be right back. Hey guys, I know you all want to grow on Amazon, so I'm so excited to tell you about our official Amazon agency partner, Daybreak. I think they are the best fit for emerging brands. Their retainer is less than half of what most agencies charge, and their team are total killers. I worked with them on my last brand because I'd heard such good things, and they absolutely crushed it. They'll get you started on Amazon or help you level up. First, they fix up your listing. They make your creative ads, they manage your operations and advertising, and can even help with channels like Instacart and Criteo. If you're interested, email them. It's startupcpg@daybreak.agency. It's also in the show notes. And make sure to mention Startup CPG for $600 of free design credits. And now, back to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it does take that to really see it. And it also takes a lot of time. And then it feels like it's all of a sudden. But in reality, you've put in 4 long years of very hard work developing this brand. But since you mentioned Expo West, and it sounds like you have so much experience there as both, working for this corporate company and then working for your own brand as a backpack brand, there are sort of 2 things I want to dive into. But first, we'll start with some of the other exciting momentum that I know Cien Chiles has that has sort of come out of Expo West, which is you recently launched or are launching in Central Market in Texas. And we at Startup CPG had buyer meetups at our booth at Expo West 2024, and we'll be doing it again in 2025. And we also are doing it at all our other trade shows that we'll be at. But anyway, you had a meeting, or you were selected for a meeting with Central Market for a one-on-one face-to-face meeting. So I'd love for you to speak a little bit about what it was like to have that first meeting and then how you actually converted that meeting into an actual retail partnership.
Yes. So, we got, I think there was, I don't know if hundreds of companies, but it was, I know it was a lot of people that applied to have some FaceTime with the buyers from Central Market. And, literally when you said it, like I got the chills thinking about it because it is really like a big journey, and like you need to have like the right connections and talk to the right person to be able to navigate, getting into a new retailer. So we sat down at the Startup CPG section with a Central Market buyer, and I started sharing my story and where I'm coming from, and as like she tried she really loved watching the product. I should probably have a bottle here, but she really loved. I can grab one to have a visual. I'm very visual. So she just hearing me talk about my story and then looking at the product. And then when she tried it, she was like, oh my God, like this is phenomenal. Like it was kind of like an automatic in. She's like, yes, I want to bring you in. We'll start the paperwork, all this and that. And again, everything takes time. But on the flip side, my husband's so organized that when they send all the forms, like he's kind of like plug and play, like he knows every detail that needs to go on those forms, which is also very time consuming, where probably if he would if I would have to do it, I would take double the time, or triple the time, to do what he does, and, and that was also communicated from the buyer. He's like, we're already on shelves. So this was March and we're on shelves right now at Central Market. So everything happened so fast. So the beginning of May, it was the beginning of May. I went to see the buyer again. She invited me to present my product to the rest of the buying team, which was a huge deal for us, coming into the Central Market like headquarters and being able to share, my story and the product with the rest of the team was really special. And she shared it with me. She's like, I can't believe how quickly you guys like moved everything to be able to be on shelf. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it really takes a village, but again, a lot of organizational skills from my partner in crime to have the ball rolling and, paying attention to all the like small details that go into these big forms that we probably not a lot of us understand, and the fine print and all these things. So, it was an amazing connection to be able to have. And again, we're reaping the fruit from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you bring up a great point, which is things do take a lot of time usually, but we should be prepared to have things move quickly if they do. Mm-hmm. So you guys, it sounds like you and your partner were extremely prepared to move forward and launch in Central Market. And so things moved really quickly. And so if you can be prepared and organized and ready, I think the ball can maybe move a little bit faster. Because yeah, I've definitely heard stories from other founders where they're like, we talked in March and then in November we launched. So really exciting for you guys, and congratulations for that
thank
launch.
You. Yes.
Yeah. Another question I had. Yeah. Another question I had was more about Expo West in general. Given that you have all these years of experience, both having a booth there with your company, and then now as a backpack brand with Cien Chiles, do you have any advice for, a brand who might be listening, who's thinking about going to Expo West next year, Expo West 2025 as a backpack brand? Or if they do have a booth, any advice you might have from your years, with your corporate company?
Resources are scarce for everybody, I feel, when you're at this stage in the game. So for me, I would highly recommend for you to, like, if you're a brand that like is under or a little over like $100,000, from like $100,000 to like $500,000, like I wouldn't spend the money in setting up a booth. Like maybe with Startup CPG that you guys make it a little bit more affordable to set up a booth, I would consider it. But the experience that I had on the flip side, like I said, was so much worth it to be able to walk around, to meet buyers in the hallway, and, because we all know who we're looking for, so also like, I don't know, it was for me just a different experience. I mean, it does have value that you have a booth set up, but again, you're kind of tied into whoever walks to you. And there's so many companies, like there's so many people, there's so many things going on, that I don't think we're ready to make that big investment of, setting up a booth, because I know, like, it's not only the cost of the booth, is traveling, is hotels, it's the product you're going to give out for sampling, shipping to Expo West beforehand, and the headache that is. Like, I feel like I got to see many years of back and forth and the logistics behind it and swag and like what all the expectations that or like everything that's expected for you to show up and have, X, Y, and Z, it is definitely something to consider. So, I think like cost wise, it's probably like if you pay X amount of dollars, I would say 50% of that over the X amount of dollars for the price of a booth, you'll have to spend on logistics and sampling stuff and all these things. So I always, or when people ask me, is like, and to be completely honest too, my last boss at Chosen, my corporate job, he was like, Maria, if I were you, I would spend the dollars in selling shows versus shows like Expo or fancy food show. Like if you are already in a large distributor and you want to spend good, like smart dollars, I would go for tabletops at distributor shows. That way you can like convert and sell rather than just, I mean, everything has obviously its pros and cons, but his advice was invest the dollars where you can convert the dollars rather than spend the dollars where you don't know if you'll have a buyer walk by or, if you'll gain 10,000 followers or less. So, not even. I think 10,000 is a lot.
But 10,000 would be great.
I know, right? So, my advice would be to pace yourself and kind of like think about really like where you want to, spend those smarter dollars.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. And I was actually just interviewing another brand who was a backpack brand this year, Gia of Hot Pot Queen. And she was saying the same thing in terms of her focus this year, which is more of those distributor shows, things like that, where she can really meet her distributors' clients, which are the retailers. So another thing I wanted to talk to you about as you brought up followers was your social media, because I love your social media presence. It's so just sweet and genuine, and it really feels like it's not this corporate brand. It feels like it's really you and your spirit behind it. So I was wondering if you had any advice to other founders who might feel a little bit nervous about showing up on social media, or who might feel a little icky about selling themselves on social media, because I know that's something that many founders struggle with, but also know that it's so important to show up on social media. So what's your approach to Instagram, TikTok, all these things? And what advice would you give to other founders?
So I've always loved being like up on stage. Like I have no issue. I love to sing. So I've always, since I was I literally this weekend, I was back home in Mexico, and we were watching videos from when we were younger, and my sisters, I'm the youngest of 4 or 5. I'm the youngest of 5. And, it was like just watching me as a little kid, like, okay, like it's Christmas time. Everybody has a little show. And my sister's like, why didn't you like dance with the kids your age? Cause like they're doing like, I just can't wait to be king. And I'm like, no, cause I probably said I wanted a show for myself. So, sure enough, literally like the next act, it was me with my entire, literally like I'm dancing. And for me, there's no issue to present myself, and it is very time consuming. I don't think people realize how much or how long it takes, like whenever I'm creating content, like it's the filming, it's the cleaning up, make sure it's perfect, like editing, like it takes hours for me to like post a video, or a reels with a recipe. But on the other hand, I feel like nowadays people want to support small brands, they don't want to, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just my impression, but what I've heard also from consumers is like, oh, I much rather like support a brand like you who I know is dedicated. I know it's there. I know you're packing my orders, than a faceless large corporation where maybe, I don't know, it's not not that the quality is not there, but like having the support from the people and how they watch you grind and how they watch you have a bad day. I feel that that's what really makes it connect with people. And that's for me, that's kind of like the push for me to be in front of the cameras. And, even when I have a challenging day, I show up and I'm like, hey, I'm not wearing any makeup. I'm kind of sad today. And people relate with that. We're all human at the end of the day, and we're fighting our fight to make it out there in the market. And on the flip side too, or like the other side of the coin is like, people do want to support small brands like yours. So even if it's challenging for you as a founder, I would highly recommend, that you get out there and show your face and have that FaceTime with your community, because you never know who's watching and who can relate to you. And, we now have a small warehouse, or like we share this wall of this warehouse, and that's like big deal for me, to be able to share with people that now we went from my mother's garage to just storing here. And now we have a whole, like a little section of the warehouse just for us, so, and that has been the growth, and it hasn't been easy, and it's a journey, and not every day is sunshine and flowers, but I tried for it to be sunshine and flowers, even if I'm having a so-so day, I'm a very, like, I'd always try to look for positive in my day. So I don't know, we're so kind of like blessed and gifted to be where we are, and, trying to make impact and bringing people together through delicious food. That for me is like making it, so I highly recommend for any founder, to show up, and people want to connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great advice. And also just to be honest, and you can show up as your honest self. And I think that's something that people get concerned about, is they feel like if they show up on social media, they have to show up as this perfect version of themselves. And it's definitely something I fall victim to myself. And then I just don't post that much on social media. But I think it's really great advice to be like, there's a community out there that wants to support you, but you have to put yourself out there to let them support you.
Exactly.
So in terms of letting that community support you, what are some of the other ways that you have been working to cultivate that Cien Chile community and get them to, go to the Central Market in Texas and buy your product, or go to the many other retailers that you guys are in? How are you getting them to not only support you on social media, but also show up and purchase your product?
So for us, demos have been really moving the needle a lot. So we're in San Diego, so the Whole Foods and the Bristol Farms that are within reach for us. I planned a trip with a friend of mine. I'm like, hey, I know you have a 10-month-old baby. Would you come with me to do demos? We did 10 demos in 3 days, like 2 nights staying in LA area. And we did both of us did 2 demos each a day. So it was 4 demos a day, and it was like pow, 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 like literally one after the other, eating in the car and just being in front of people, like people do like, and also nowadays, like it's a higher price point for a hot sauce. So, and it's great quality, but again, nowadays how the financial situation is for everybody, spending X amount of dollars with a hot sauce is like, like, what if I don't enjoy it, or whatever the reason is. So being able to show up and have a demo and people to try is like, wow, like I'm, mind blown. I want to take all of them.
Yeah.
So doing demos has really moved the needle for us, at Whole Foods, Bristol, and even locally there's an amazing chain here in San Diego called Fraser Farms. We just got into Jimbo's. So that it's just, showing up for the community, then that really does incentivize people to not only support you, and always people are like, you're the founder. We just refreshed the label. So now we have a little picture of me in the label. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, like it's you. And I'm like, yes, like it's not like that. People are always so impressed that it's not, this massive corporation, which is, sharing your story again. And not all people do, social media. So having that FaceTime with the customer in your retailer, that's like, you already like converted someone for life, and, the other thing that we really take pride on is customer service. Always take care of your customer. We get like somewhat like not that are complaints, but like, the last one was like, oh, I bought the Thai bird at the store and, for whatever reason, like it kind of fermented. And I know like from the quality side of it, like it was probably left out or whatever reason it is, but without hesitation, we're like, we would love to make it up to you. Let's send you a fresh bottle. So taking care of your community is just as important as showing up and doing that initial switch over. So
yeah.
So I feel like those two are kind of like top priority at Cien Chiles, where we're showing up in all the like retailers that we can, and also taking care of our community and like whatever like request or
We'll be right back. Hello, everybody. Have you ever reached out to a traditional recruiting agency to try to fill a role and then been shocked when you found out that they charge up to 30% of a first-year salary? That could be $50,000 or way more. That's so unaffordable for an early brand. But there's great news. I am thrilled to announce that Startup CPG now has an official recruiting partner that I think is the best fit for emerging brands. They are called Creative Alignments. They're a top-tier recruiter, and the best thing is that they work on an hourly model. It's called time-based recruiting. Often, you could fill a position with them for just 10 to 12% of a first-year salary, and if you work with them on multiple roles, you could save even more. They've worked with RX Bar, Cauli Power, Kodiak Cakes, Olipop, and so many other brands, and they are extremely well regarded within our Startup CPG Slack community. So if you're considering hiring, I really recommend reaching out to them for a free consultation. You can visit their website at creativealignments.com or email them directly. Our contact is frank.milianti, that's MILIANTI at creativealignments.com. And now back to the show.
Yeah, no, I think that's both really great points of advice and good things to remember. And also just from a person who's tried Maria's Cien Chiles sauces, they are truly delicious and they taste very, very fresh. And you look at the ingredient list and it is truly just the normal ingredients you would expect to find.
Tomatoes, onions, garlic.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing scary, no like words you don't recognize. So that's always nice. And then also, to get to see the picture of the founder and to know that it's you and it's your story is so special and moving. And I do think there is a real desire from consumers to support a brand with a story, with a person behind it, a person that they can reach via email who's going to address their concerns. And I know, again, for myself as a consumer, I'm willing to spend a few extra dollars to have that personal connection to something that I feel, happy to support rather than just like this is another random product in my house.
Yeah.
So I think that's really great advice for all founders listening or thinking about how they want to go about expanding their brand or launching a brand in the first place.
Yes. And leaning really on the community to thrive, because we're all in this together and we're all going through similar struggles, and like all this kind of like list of things that we need to be taking care of. Leaning in each other is like really, or has been really awesome, because either someone else already has a contact or, just literally leaning on our community to make it better, and I that's what I love about the Slack and Startup CPG, because it's like, oh, like I'm looking for a like 3PL, you know, and people are like, no, like, oh, how about this one? They're like, oh, I had a bad experience. How about that one? You know, like just being upfront and honest of your process has also been helpful and challenging, you know, to find X and Y, you know, whatever it is. But leaning on our community, like CPG community, has been extremely important and special that, you know, we have each other, and it's a big platform to thrive, really. So that's been challenging and great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you found the Startup CPG Slack useful. And I know that it is a great place to ask questions. If I ever start a brand, which I don't think I will, knowing everything that it takes, but
everything that you know,
yeah, I would definitely go to the Slack first. But as we wrap up, I would love to hear a little bit about what the rest of the year looks like for Cien Chiles and what else is coming down the pipeline and what are you excited about in the year to come for Cien Chiles?
Totally. So, I've been asked, you know, like what's next, you know, what's coming. And that also is a big challenge, innovating and bringing more products. So we originally launched with these 4 sauces. And not every retailer carries all 4. Most of our retailers, or we have the 3 sauces highly distributed, or like the hot sauce in the larger distributor, and the mustard not as much. So for us, growth, or right now our focus, or our main focus, is to grow deeper where we are. So like build strong roots with the retailer or like retail partners that we have. And that way we can like continue to branch out. You know, sometimes it is hard, and that was like a big wake up call, you know, partnering with one certain retailer that really wasn't a good match for us. It became very expensive. We were not getting that turnaround. So partnering with this certain retailer that really wasn't a good fit for us was a learning, kind of like a learning process for us to be more mindful of where we want to have our product in, and make sure like really doing your research to see if it's going to be a good fit for you. Because otherwise it turns out to be extremely expensive because of the expectation of having promotional calendars and investing on their marketing or whatever it is, you know. So for us, a focus moving forward and like closing this year is to build solid roots with the current retailers that we have, so we can continue this growth and this momentum to continue to thrive, you know, like that. Having strategic growth, or like a vision of that strategic growth has made us be here today. And spending those dollars wisely and learning from our mistakes and learning from other people's mistakes to be like, oh, I don't know if I would go X and Y because of this and this and that. So ask around, you know. I feel like there's a lot of people that are open to talking about their experience, and yeah, we're super excited for what's coming. And yeah.
Yes, that I think that is another common refrain I've heard from some other brands, is the idea of going deeper this year rather than trying to go so wide and trying to be everywhere all the time, because it's simply not humanly possible, especially when you're a small brand and you're a small team and, you know, you want to support the places you already are. So my final question is, how can the Startup CPG community, the people who are listening right now, how can they support Cien Chiles?
So definitely, you know, like trying our sauces, giving a follow on Instagram, on TikTok, sharing it with your friends. Like that's what makes us who we are right now. You know, like it's, maybe we don't have a huge following, but that's organic and legit, you know, like connecting with our consumers and people getting excited about recipes and different applications for our sauces. So You can get our products at cienchiles.com. We're already in 18 different states, or 19 different states and, in certain retailers, but our website can tell you if you have a store near you, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Amazing. So exciting. And everybody should follow Cien Chiles on Instagram or TikTok or whatever your social media, app of choice is. It's genuinely a joy. Maria greets the stories every day with Hola Familia. And I'm like, sign me up. I want to be a part of the family. I'm on board.
I love it.
And everybody should check out your website as well. But this was such a pleasure to chat with you, Maria, and learn more about Cien Chiles. And also, if anybody has any questions or wants any advice from you, they can always reach out to you on our Startup CPG Slack. And I just look forward to seeing where Cien Chiles goes in the future. And hopefully you'll be in PA soon, in the Philadelphia area where I am, so I can go to the store and support y'all. But a pleasure as always. And thank you to everyone for listening.
Thank you, Grace.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, it would help us out so much if you left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I am Grace Kennedy, the editor for Startup CPG, so feel free to add me on LinkedIn or reach out to me on Slack. I'm always on the hunt for new and exciting brands to feature. And if you're a potential sponsor that would like to appear on the podcast, please email partnerships@startupcpg.com. And finally, as a reminder for anyone listening, if you haven't already, we would love for you to join our community on Slack, and you can sign up via our website, startupcpg.com.